South Africa's nearly 100-year-old land bank has reported its recapitalisation and improved management processes have produced a stable institution that inspires better investor confidence. Let's find out about the bank's annual report for 2010 and 2011. We're joined by the bank CEO, Phakamani Hadebe, who's with me here in studio. Thanks so much for coming through. Just give us an overriding sense of the operating environment. Agricultural investments, is it a very difficult space to be operating in?
Yes, it is a difficult space. But again, just like any other sector in the financial market, we are facing exactly the same problems. The margins are tightening and non-performing loans are growing, impairments are growing. But Lerato, I must say that the land bank has done exceptionally well. We've been able to build the book. We grew the book by 16%. It's not just growing the book, that's a loan book. But we've improved the quality. That is, we've been able to reduce non-performing loans and impairments. So we're one of the very few institutions that have been able to do so.
Going forward, I mean, I think the big challenge is to make the land bank commercially viable. You've had a torrid financial history. The government had to come in with some sort of a bailout or recapitalisation. And the issue is, as you're growing your loan book, as you're reducing that ratio of non-performing loans, you've also got to create a sound, commercially viable institution. How are you grappling with all these challenges?
We have done very well during the past 3 years. The bank up until 2009 was going down the drain. It had 5 years of qualification and it had made losses up until 2009. Thereafter it was transferred to the National Treasury and we needed to turn it around. And since then, from 9, 10, 11, we've been making a profit, which means that we've put appropriate fundamentals to ensure that the institution survive. Importantly though is that we've put in what we call a sustainable business model that will allow us to move forward. What does it mean? The first thing it meant was you get investors to come back and lend you money so that you can on-lend. Investors had left. Since then, they've come back, and when they come back, then they reduce the cost of borrowing. The second thing is the bank was facing huge non-performing loans. We've been able to reduce that by about 35% over the past 3 years. That's the second thing. But thirdly, it's the ability of the bank to get the people with appropriate qualifications and experience that will be able to steer the institution to the right direction. So the worst is over. And actually, the minister did indicate last year that the turnaround has been completed. Now we're back to the core business of the bank.
Risk management systems that you've introduced, because you're talking about the need to continue to reduce impairments and non-performing loans. This becomes a problem to those who are debtors, because there is a sense that when you're lending to the agricultural sector, there's a big risk in the process of land acquisition itself. And then there's the incumbent risk of the farming activity. And you've got to mitigate somewhere along the line. And when we're seeing commodity prices fluctuate or drought conditions permeate, or the economic recovery being sluggish and banks not lending, that has a direct bearing on the work that you do.
It does have a bearing, just like any other bank. But if you're looking at the land bank book, a loan book, you can separate it into two forms. There's a commercial side, about 75% or so. Then there's a development side. The commercial side has been doing exceptionally well with non-performing loans of about 6% or so. What we have done then is to go to government and say, government, for us to get into the development side, you'll have to come and assist us. That is, you'll have to recapitalize and assist us because the carrying of the clients we have in this arm of the market is too high. That is why we've been able then to sustain the business as we move forward.
You talk about some sort of a monitoring mechanism through the social accounting matrix. You're working hand in hand with the Development Bank of Southern Africa. Tell us how you're going to evaluate the successes of the work that you do.
No, it's very easy. The government has come forth and they've highlighted 5 core areas of priority that all of us should follow. Job creation, crime, education, agriculture development and health. The land bank has 2 that it can play a role in. It's job creation and it is agricultural development or rural development. But to make noises that you are doing something without it being quantitatively analyzed will not be good. So what we have decided to do is to pick up one of the best systems that's been used around the world by the World Bank, by the majority of the development finance institutions in South Africa, that is used by Statistics South Africa, for example, What it does, it puts all the scenarios and assumptions on the economic growth, then gives you the answer, be it on growth, be it the impact to do on income levels, on GDP. So we'll be able to go to the government and say, government, over the past 12 months, we have, let me make an example, over the past 12 months for the year closing end of March this year. The Land Bank dispersed loans to the amount of 17.9 billion. Now, out of this 17.9 billion, we then have to give a developmental impact. How have we impacted the mandate that the government gave the Land Bank as a government entity or organ? And we've been able to say we created 13,500 jobs.
Let me not deal with empirical evidence, that's your job, but let's deal with perceptions. The government has identified rural development as a key pillar of its economic program, and it features very strongly within the New Growth Path, and it features strongly in the ANC's election manifesto. But we're told that South Africa has the fastest rate of urbanization across the continent, that people want land for cultural reasons, restitution, but people don't actually want to live on the land and farm the land. So effectively, the agrarian economy is the one that's growing very slowly as a contributor to GDP, because it's the one area of the economic matrix where people don't want to participate. And that becomes a fundamental dilemma for the work that you do.
I wouldn't agree with you. I would agree that agriculture is not fancy, special for the youth. But I will just give you an example of what has happened through the Department of Rural Development. It went out, it was looking for crops, people in rural areas that will get into agriculture and build their careers. And about 9,000 people have applied in that. It means that we are failing to sell the sector. That's the first part of the issue. But there's a second issue that we have to take note of. And that is, agriculture is not about farming only. There's a full value chain. There's a technical side, food progresses. Agriculture contributes 2.5% on GDP. But agricultural processing contributes another 10%. So that's 15%, or both of it combined. That's a huge contribution in GDP. We need to allow people to get and play a role in the full value chain. And that's what we've been doing.